Alright, well, real quick, go over everything that we've done on the car since, well, I really haven't shared any of this with you. So, let me do that real quick. 2000 Ford Focus RallyCross modified front-wheel drive. Previously, the only thing that really bumped it in modified was having the interior, but that was really to fit the roll cage. So the roll cage kind of was a wash. Scales, and sure enough, the factory weight was 2,551 pounds. This weighed 2,540. So it lost 11 pounds. That was it. So my goal has been to put it on a diet and lose some weight. The car, beyond its appearance of being a rally car, is relatively stock. It's got polyurethane bushings, polyurethane mounts, a header, intake, stuff like that. But there's Bilstein struts, but nothing crazy really done to it performance-wise. So instead of focusing on trying to give it more power, I want to drop some weight, and I want to get better weight distribution, and from there I want to work on some aero bits to try to get the car more stable. It does like to get rear end happy, and I've been able to learn how to drive that and control it to my liking, but the car could do a lot better as of the way the car drives and the way the car performs. So that is something I want to work on, and I also want to get the car a little bit faster in total time. So weight reduction, so it will handle better through the corners, is a big one for me. So that's what I'm going after. Basically overall handling performance, so I can get around the corners a little bit cleaner, a little bit smoother, a little bit faster, and then maybe next year we'll play with more power or something like that, but that's what we're going to work on right now. So here's what I've done so far with the doors, and as you can tell, it's actually still solid. Doesn't really make any noise, and that's because the door sills and everything are still there, and from the outside the door looks normal. Until you open it up, you realize there used to be obviously the whole frame, inner skin, or whatever you want to call it, in here, which had the window regulator, also had a crash bar across here, and there was also actually a crash bar built in right here, which is now gone. I retained the factory latch, and that's what I'm going to keep. It works well, no reason to get rid of it. I am going to have to connect a cable or something to a release up here, so you're able to use it and get in and out of the car. I did get rid of the limiter, but the hinges, if you can see in there, actually have nice little stops. Now I can't open it all the way because I'm hitting a cabinet in the shop, but they actually do a really fine job of stopping it and not letting it go too far and end up hitting the fender or anything like that. I am going to put a limit strap still on it, because one issue I do have with VR is once you're strapped in and you want to close the door, that can be a pain in the ass. You could be fully strapped in, the door swings open, and you can't reach it. So I am going to put a strap and between the cage, so you've got something when you're sitting in the seat, you can reach and grab it and pull the door to you. I'm looking at weight reduction. That's not going to really do anything as of adding weight to the car, but add really more like kind of a comfort thing, ease of operation, which is obviously very important. From what we have done is then I moved into the inside of the car, now that the doors are stripped down, and I emptied out the quarter panels. This ended up being a whole lot of fucking work, and not that there was a huge amount of stuff in there, as much as it was just layered the way it was layered in there. Now, everything down next to the frame between That's not really the frame rail. The frame rail actually runs about right here and goes up there, where then there's a crossbar, and then the outer frame rails are underneath the door. So in the passenger compartment, the frame rail is right here, but from that line back, okay, I'm gonna try to pick up where I left off, because I had someone walk up and ask me a question. Quarter panels and cutting them out. So anyway, the frame rails in the back, as you can kind of tell from the placements where they hook up to the bumper here, goes like where you see these rectangle shapes, and they continue straight right there. So they don't zigzag over. They go to a flat plate or flat end framework that is from side to side there, and then it just jumps to the outside. So a lot of this was reinforcement really for the B-pillar and for the fender well, which then also supports where the back seat's bolted in, and the, I guess what you would call a C-pillar. It's not really much of a C-pillar, but that's pretty much what this definition is between, say, the roof frame and the body itself is a pillar. So where the tail light actually sits is a C-pillar. Now we can cut all that out because we have the roll cage, and the roll cage is actual structural to the car. And I'm actually going to change that up and add, well, I'm not changing anything about this. That roll cage is phenomenal, but I am going to add to it, and that's going to be actually back here to help support the strut mounts and the rear subframe. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm actually going to run a bar from here all the way to here, and then go from here down to here, which the subframe is right underneath here. And so I'm going to put a plate to bolt to it and have diagonal bars going up and down like that. One, to kind of stiffen this rear section and to tie in the subframe. Now the subframe actually bolts in right there and like right here, like right there and right here. So it sits in this section here, and you can see I've kind of marked it off here as of where the back edge behind the subframe is, so I know where it's at. This is what I actually marked as what I thought was the center line, because, well, you see this and you see that that's the center with the struts, but that is not the axle center line, and I'll tell you why in a second, why that's important. The axle center line is actually above that, and the reason why is you do have some caster with the way the struts sit, which makes sense. So the axle center line is actually a couple inches up here, which is, kind of goes right along right here. So and I need to measure that and mark that. Now here's why that is important. I have never read a rule book over and over so many times to make sure I have a complete thorough understanding of what I can and what I can't do. Those quarter panels were questionable, and let me explain why, and why I finally kind of accepted the fact that I could cut them out. Per the definition of, and maybe I'll throw it up there, a link to it so that everyone can see, but it defines that you can't do anything out inside the passenger compartment. The passenger compartment is defined by what cannot be modified is the pillars, which you have